Good evening, friends. Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon, a retired New York City police detective with 20 plus years of law enforcement. And folks, if you like all things true crime related from a police perspective, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or when I upload another video. I want to say a special thank you to my Patreon supporters, the channel members, all of the folks who subscribe and leave positive comments down below. It's the engagement, the after conversation after these live streams are over that I really enjoy. And I want to say thank you to everybody for positively interacting here in these live streams. You guys don't know how much I appreciate that. I want to say first, before we get started, Julie and Dr. Ed. Julie, thank you for your support and happy birthday. Happy 63rd birthday. You know, they say 63 is the new 29. So happy birthday to you, Julie. And also, I want to say thank you to Denise Spalding for the generous super chat prior to the show starting. She sent in a $300 super chat and she says, let's support these individuals that dedicate their time and efforts to trying to locate or find these children. Let's bring these children home. Sir DutyRon and Equisearch, may God bless each and every one of you. Thank you, Denise, for the generous super chats in the past and that generous super chat. Tonight, I have 3 special guests and a 4th that's going to be joining us later on. I want to just tell you my special guests. 2 of them you know, okay, let's let that go. 2 of them you know from previous shows. Dave Rader from Equisearch. He is the director of Midwest EquuSearch, the Ohio chapter, and Twila Cisco. She is the search coordinator. They are live with us from a remote location in Georgia. They're on another assignment right now, but they were kind enough to take out their evening to join us. And I also have a drone expert, Gene Robinson from SAR, that's Search and Recovery Drones. He's a retired Air Force medic. He flew missions in the Air Force, and I want to thank him for his service. He'll be joining us shortly. It's going to be a wonderful show. We're going to talk about summer wells and drones, sonar drones, sonar equipped drones, and all different types of drones for searching for missings. Not just missing children, but for missing folks, whether they're elderly, whether they're special needs, whether they're special category, hikers missing in the mountains, all kinds of aerial support that these folks that fly these drones. So what I want to do quickly too is say again a special thank you to my moderators and the replay viewers. But before we get started, I want to play a little bit of media, as I always do, so you guys can see a little bit about what we're going to be talking about tonight. And if you hold up till the end of the live show, we are going to take a 5 or 10 minute period of questions and answer. So Q&A will follow at the end. So please grin and bear it while we're talking to the guests. I don't want to try to, branch off, but we will be saying hello to everybody in the chat as we go. But I want to just play this bit of media while you guys are waiting so you can get a better understanding of what we're going to talk about tonight. So here we go.
Missing hikers is a success thanks in part to what is buzzing. Search for missing hikers is a success thanks in part to what is buzzing in the sky these days: drones. Douglas County search and rescue teams launched a drone to help find 2 men who got lost while hiking an area in the Pety National Forest known as Devil's Head right there. Karen Morfitt joins us now to explain how this all worked out. And Karen, those men are safe at home tonight.
They're at home safe and without any injuries. Karen, the Douglas County search and rescue team was able to use cell phone pings and one of these, a drone, to find those missing hikers and bring them to safety, all within just a few hours.
Shortly after learning 2 hikers were lost in the Pety National Forest, Douglas County search and rescue crews were on the ground and in the air using a drone.
I think it's awesome. It's fantastic. It is, in fact, I think, where search and rescue, especially in the wilderness areas, is heading.
On Thursday, Roman Bukhari and the rest of the rescue team were called on to find 2 men who lost their way after leaving the Devil's Head Trail. The team's newly approved drone was launched and quickly covered miles of terrain before their boots would ever touch the ground.
Before we're out there, we can search massive areas of terrain. Before we're out there, we can see at high points of visibility, is there in fact someone there?
While it's an invaluable search tool, it also gives those responding on foot critical information they need to complete a successful rescue.
And everybody knew exactly where we were going, what we were seeing, who we had to deal with, how many we were going to deal with, and that made my life much easier.
In fact, in a forest spanning thousands of acres, it took just 2 hours for crews to find those missing hikers. Bukhari says as successful as the search was, it's just a glimpse into what that technology can do.
It is a tremendous tool, and I'm glad that it's on our team, and I'm glad that we can use it.
Now, a spokesperson for the Douglas County Search and Rescue Team says almost immediately after those hikers were rescued, the first question they had was, how much is all of this going to cost us? This, they say, can be an important reminder to everyone that if you find yourself in a situation like this, never hesitate to call for help. They do not charge for their services. For now, we're live. Karen Morfitt, CBS 4 News.
So I just want to highlight that towards the end, the statement that this reporter just made, and this is footage from years ago, from 2017. They do not charge for their services. This is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The guests that I'm about to introduce you to are going to be sharing the proceeds from tonight. So all super chats or anything that is sent in donations wide will be split between Gene Robinson and his search and rescue drone organization and Texas EquuSearch. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest. Gene Robinson is kind enough to join us from Texas. He's taken out some of his time from his busy schedule. Gene, thank you so much for joining the Crime Time with DutyRon show. It's an honor to have you.
Hello, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to talk about drones.
And I want to just start off by saying thank you for your service to our country. Again, I tip my cap to all the men and women who serve our country. Freedom doesn't come free, and I greatly appreciate what you have done and what you continue to do in your retirement from the military. So thank you for that. Quickly, I'm going to add two friends who you know well, both of these two. They're coming remote from Georgia. I'm not going to give up their location because they got so many fans on my show. They might show up at their door and ask them for autographs. It's Dave Rader and Twila from Equisearch Midwest. Thank you guys for joining.
Absolutely. Good to see you again, Ron. Hi, Gene.
Oh, hi, Ron. You guys are loud.
Yeah.
Is that too loud?
We don't mess around. Those two, they got their mics turned up. They want everybody to hear them. Let me start off with you, Gene. Please tell the audience, you got 20 years, as you said to me, experience flying these drones. Just set it up for my audience how you got involved in the drone business.
Actually, I had a company that produced a fixed wing drone called the Spectra. And it was 2004 when we started kind of producing a drone. And we were trying to decide, what was the best kind of niche that a drone would fit in. And my military service tells me that, hey, search and rescue and, stuff with the PJs and the prime beef, it would be certainly a good application. So I actually reached out to Tim Miller with Texas EquuSearch there in Houston and said, hey, we got this thing, can we help you out? And he put us off and yeah, there's a picture of Tim right there. And there was a case came up and he said, well, call Gene Robinson and tell him to take his little toy and go down there and see if he can do any good. So
who was just throwing that drone up? And that looks like a sophisticated drone.
That's me. That's me flying the drone. And that is the Spectra flying wing. A lot of people see I had hair then. A lot of people forget that the fixed wing drones is where we started. The multi-rotor drones came along later and they kind of became the darling, if you will, because they are more versatile. They don't fly as long as a fixed wing.
This one looks sophisticated and advanced right there.
It for the time it was very advanced. It had a full telemetry system, guidance, control. It had, you'd see the camera there. It had just about everything a military grade drone would have in it, but it was civilian grade.
Did you build this drone yourself?
I designed that drone and built it and started a process of producing those drones in my facility up until, gosh, 2015.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Is there any music on this, or could I play this? What you guys are talking about here, or
Well, there's a search right there in the Houston Ship Channel that that picture was the very first picture of the very first flight when Tim called me down there to help them, and it was like that quick that we got that find in there. Yeah, there's Tim talking. There's a whole string of stuff going on back there and him talking. So, I mean, if you want to, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I want you to more so. I'm going to put you back on, and then I'll play this after we're done talking.
Okay.
I'd rather you tell the audience about how you got started, because I interrupted you, so I apologize for that. I just got so excited when I saw this. Joe Murray, who is going to be a guest with us at the end, you leave it up to an attorney to find this. I didn't even find this footage. He sent this to me. So it's a minute and 50 seconds, and I'll go back to it. So again, I'll put you full screen. Just let everybody know how you got into it, because I did interrupt you. So let's do it over. Let's do a do-over.
Okay, do-over is that I designed this flying wing, and I offered my assistance to Texas Equisearch, and it took almost a year before they would use me. And so 2005 or so, they sent me out to a case in West Texas, and I can say his name. You can look it up. David Lee Pety was his name. He had been missing for 6 months, and the family contacted Texas Equisearch. And when Tim said, hey, let's send Gene out there with his toy airplane and see if he can do any good. So I went out there with my then partner, Myron Smorenberg, and we flew 3 flights when we got there. It was windy as all get out, but we got the flights in and took about 200 images. Went back to the hotel room that night because it got dark, and we did a process that we call squinting the images. You have to squint them, you just look down real close to them. And, we found some good targets. So we walked out there. I walked out the next day. They went and searched one field, and I walked straight out, literally straight out to the guy in 15 minutes and found him where, unfortunately, he had committed suicide.
And how long was he missing at that point when you found him?
6 months. He had been missing 6 months, and the sheriff had decided that he was off in some other part of the country robbing banks and doing things like that.
So they did their searches, their ground searches, or whatever they do initially. I know from being a police officer 20 years, we search the inside out. We start at the house or the last place the person was has seen, and then we work our way out. So essentially they did all their stuff, and 6 months later you throw up, as Tim Miller calls it. What did he call it?
A toy airplane.
I can hear Tim saying that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Gene, why don't you go throw up your toy airplane and see what the heck you can find? Excellent. So 6 months later, you find this gentleman who unfortunately committed suicide, but you brought him home to his family.
Yes.
And what was that feeling like? That was your first mission that you found somebody. What was that felt?
I've got to tell you, when I fell out of that tree, I hit 100 branches on the way down, and that really opened my eyes. The family was so grateful, and I got to use some of my military experience. I wasn't shocked by what I saw, and I could actually provide a little assistance to them, not much, but I could at least give them some comfort. And on the way home, when we were driving home with Myron and myself, we were both like, we've got to do this. This is the right thing. And we told Tim then that, hey, we're on board. We want to do this. And of course, when Tim found out that, in 15 minutes, 3 flights and 15 minutes later, we found this guy, He says, "You're my new hero."
Yeah.
And from that point forward, I've been to 31 states and 6 countries doing
Wow.
search and rescue with not only the fixed wing, but the rotor wing aircraft.
How many successful missions? Now, a successful mission is a find, whether the person is alive or dead. Approximately, how many successful missions have you had?
I am up to 20, but that's only the ones that I count where I walked out there and I actually found the victim. There are multiple others that I did the imagery, flew the missions for them, scanned the images, and directed them, and somebody else found what we were looking for.
Wow.
So I don't really know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could be more, could be less, but again, you're bringing this technology forward, and police departments are trying to mimic this and get it on board.
Yes.
So we're going to get into some of your training and some of the things that you do and you teach a bit now.
Yes.
I think it's important. It's a wonderful technology that can do nothing but good, I feel, in my heart. It's an advancement that is great for police departments that are resource drained, that do not have the fundage to pay for overtime, to throw the whirlybird up and gas it up and pay the overtime to the pilots, or to contract it out to Farmer Joe or whoever is got people want to get paid. They want to get, they have to pay for their fuel. You throw one of these drones up, granted they're not cheap, but it's a great asset to any small or medium-sized police department that can't afford it in their budget. Lori J, thank you for the $20 super sticker. For those of you tuning in, this is Gene Robinson, SAR president. He does the drone SAR. It's search and recovery. He runs a nonprofit, and Dave Rader and Twila are here with us in Georgia, joining us from one of their current missions that they're on. All of the fundage from this proceeds of the live stream here are going towards 50% to Dave Rader and his organization and 50% to Gene. So thank you to everyone who generously donates. And if you want to donate directly, I will link down below a direct link to both Gene and Dave's organization. So that I'm sure that you guys have, I know Dave has a PayPal. I'm sure, Gene, you have something set up. I'll link that in the description. And if you send a direct PayPal to me, I will just forward it to those guys. It's easier that way. Again, Dave, talk a little bit about how you came into contact with Gene, because I heard the story, but it's fascinating.
Me and Gene went back. I knew of Gene back I started with Kaylee Anthony, of course, and I knew of him and what his capabilities were, but I was new to it myself.
Right.
So I really didn't get into the whole drone thing until later on. So there was a case up in Bloomington, Indiana, with Lauren Spears missing, and that's when we threw everything, the damn kitchen sink on this case. Lauren still has not been found. Right. I basically lived in Bloomington for like 6 weeks. Wow. But we brought Gene in, and I'll never forget it. The girl that was kind of my sidekick at the time, which worked for the university, she was so into this, and Gene, she wanted to go out with Gene, and there was an area, I think it was some sort of a quarry of some sort. It was like a stone quarry, and I couldn't see over the edge. And I thought, you know what, this will be a great place for Gene and his bird to go up and see what the hell we couldn't see. Mm-hmm. And then, Gene, I'll let you take it from there.
And we did, and it was quite interesting because that was one of the cases that got quite a bit of attention in D.C. as well. As I walked off the plane, my phone was ringing, and it was the FAA, and they said, "Oh, we understand you're about to fly a mission." I was like, how do you guys know this?
The news sometimes is not our friends, and the news media probably.
I no, it hadn't been leaked to the media yet.
Mhm.
But that's another story.
Yeah.
Anyway, we ended up getting some congressional involvement on that one, and we did go out and we flew that quarry, and that was quite a hairy kind of a situation to be in. We wouldn't want to put anybody in that quarry because it was tumble down granite, rocks, water, obviously, and who knows what other critters are out there that could have injured a team out there. So yeah, we did some full 3D modeling of the quarries themselves and stitched them all together, and we could look at them. We could look down into the cracks in the rocks.
Wow. And that imaging is invaluable to a search, because
Oh, absolutely.
you could never get somebody on foot to go in there.
No.
It's impossible.
No, that thing was absolutely. It was literally from the road, the berm. Then there was the guardrail, and then there was maybe 2 foot, and then that thing went straight down. I mean, it was just nasty. If you would have thrown somebody over there, and Gene, I think you'll agree with this, nobody would have ever seen it.
Yeah.
That was a perfect scenario for that drone.
Hey guys, we're talking, and this channel has been covering the Summer Wells case. 5-year-old girl who was reported missing by her parents June 15th. So we're into day, I don't know, what is it, 65 or something like that. It's too long. So she's outstanding still. Supposedly she just vanished outside of her property. I got to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Gene, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. What could the drones bring to this search for Summer Wells at this time, right now?
Well, quite a bit actually, because we're doing some very significant research right now using alternate payloads rather than your usual video or the still imagery. We're using both thermal and what we call near infrared. It is visible, but it looks at things differently. And I actually did send a team out from the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. I was involved in another search, and they requested, I think Dave was in on the coordination of that. And they had the same sort of equipment that I had. And quite frankly, they built it on my recommendation because both of those guys were my students when they went through the drone training. So they actually got deployed. I don't know how many days out it was at the time, but they flew it, and they found a couple of areas of interest that they did clear. But even at this, what we would call late stage of the game, we can still see very clearly disturbed earth. And that's what we would be looking for, is things like disturbed earth. And, unfortunately, the child is a very small little package. And you're looking for very small patches of disturbed earth in farm country, if you will.
Right.
And there's still a possibility that the drone could provide a clue. We can see things like tire tracks and other what we call trace evidence. And that's the only way you get it is with a drone.
Sometimes, Gene, we as law enforcement investigators, we always reference a small piece of a puzzle. Now, we heard the rescue captain, Tim Coop, when he was still a commander in charge of the search and rescue, he talked about on the news that Summer Wells could be hidden in such a small space the size of 2 folders, manila folders.
Yes.
And that was his words and not mine. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because the human eye, and even from a helicopter or helicopters have their limitations, whereas a drone, you can kind of get it down close to the tree line. You are not worried about if it does catch trees and having a aircraft accident and we have death of the pilot or people on the ground. So there's so much extra, I feel, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at this from an investigator standpoint. where you can take those smaller drones into some areas where you would not be able to get the whirlybird or the helicopter, whatever you want to refer to it as.
Absolutely.
And that gives you a bird's eye view of areas and locations that are so out in the middle of nowhere, secreted, where somebody could have taken this child and really tried to do a good job of hiding. And then you say, whoa, 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 wait a minute, look at this over here. Whereas you couldn't have gotten a helicopter. I want to quickly answer Lauren Hill, Noel Hall. She asked and sent a super chat if Equisearch has a New England division. I don't think that they do, but Dave, I'll let you answer that.
That would fall under the Midwest, unfortunately. So
right.
yes.
So Lauren Noel Hall, thank you for your support. She's an awesome subscriber and great friend of this community. Texas EquuSearch down in Texas obviously handles the southern parts, but it looks like Dave Rader has probably the rest of the 47 states.
Yeah, I'm anywhere from east of the Mississippi, and again, in my geography books at the time, I sure the hell don't understand how the hell I got Mississippi, Arkansas, and I don't have Louisiana. So now I'm in Georgia. So now I'm in 19 different states. So I'm continuing on. Soon I'll catch up with Gene.
Yeah, you know better than I do, and so does Twila and Gene. But I've been dealing with Tim Miller just for a month now, and I know that when he says something, there's really not a lot of arguing with him. It's just like, okay, boss, whatever you need. Yeah. He calls me up, and he doesn't even say hello. He goes, Ron, what's the word? Do we get an answer on this? And I tell him yes or no, and he goes, okay, gotta go. Thank you. I gotta go. Click.
No, his words are, I gotta take this other call.
Right. Well, he just tells me I got to go because I don't think he sugarcoats anything with me. He just says I got to go. So drones in any type of missing or any type of search, even when it comes to prisoners that are loose and on the run, these are an invaluable tool. And I want you to talk about some of the different equipment that you have on some of your drones in your fleet. How many do you have? Give the audience, these folks know nothing about it. Just like I know you're laughing at me, but I'm trying to give my people a little bit of insight to this very great tool that is invaluable for searching for folks.
Okay, well, I want to start out. I was kind of chuckling because I was going to try to count in my head how many drones I have, and I'm not sure I can do that at this point. But because I build them all myself. One of the things. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Give us a guesstimate.
I have at least a dozen.
Awesome.
Less than 50.
Okay. All right. And what do they range from? What do you got? Traditional drones? You have the winged ones. I'm going to start showing this movie now. A couple minutes.
I have fixed wing drones, and I have military grade drones. I have the Arion Sky Ranger, which Dave has one of those. I fly a lot of DJI products. I have unique products. I have home built aircraft, and I modify my aircraft pretty significantly based on the payload that I'm trying to carry. So there you go.
Can I say one thing? You're more handsome today than you were back then. Yeah, I like the look now. A little bit of father time, listen, like wine, we age fine like wine.
Okay. All right. Well, let me start off by saying the timing on the deployment of the drone is just as significant as the employment of the drone itself. And the reason I say that is I wrote a book called First to Deploy. And really, a drone should be the first to deploy. Why? Because we can capture a scene. We can capture an area for all eternity down to 1/3 of an inch. Okay? It'll be memorialized in imagery. So imagine what that does if it's, say, for example, a crime scene. Before the first boot even walks in there, you have a good idea of what that crime scene looked like. Now,
it's a virgin crime scene photo.
Exactly. You have a baseline to start with.
That's awesome.
So, and then you have to look further on some of these missing person cases. And I think you've got an example here. we collect what we call trace evidence. And this is stuff that normally you wouldn't see from the air or see from the ground, but you can see from the air. Like we can see if people walk through tall grass. We can see the path that they have taken. We have used tire tracks to take us to victims of violent crimes. We have used trace evidence to find hard evidence when perps have tried to hide it and ran through the mud and threw it in a culvert. So, you know, the sooner that we can get out and get flown, the better. And when we first started this, we were always last to deploy. When everybody gave up and, you know, they couldn't sustain the search any longer, they'd say, okay, call Equisearch and that Robinson guy and see if he'll bring us to airplane out and fly it. And we'll go out and fly it. And I can't tell you how many times we fly it. We go, did you guys check this? Why, no, we didn't. And
what are we looking at here?
That is David Lee Pety. His family very graciously allowed me to use that image as an example because they wanted to advocate for the use of the drones because they succeeded where law enforcement and standard search teams had failed them.
So I'm going to go full screen with this. This is actual drone footage of this gentleman who committed suicide. And 6 months later, Gene and his team went out there. I believe we saw Tim Miller, a young Tim Miller out there with him. And this is actual footage. And there's our deceased. May he rest in peace. This is, again, this to me makes me happy and at the same time sad for him and his family. But this is a good thing. I mean, like you said, everybody missed this. He would have been out there, you know, decomposing without recovery for his family. They may not have ever found him, you know. So, I mean, this is a great thing. All right, listen, I have criminal defense attorney, a friend of the channel, Joe Murray. I'm paying this guy by the hour, so I'm already into him at least $550. So, Joe Murray, welcome into the live stream. Thank you for patiently waiting for your turn. I know you were chomping at the bit to get in here. Thank you, Joe.
I just absolutely love what all of your guests. I mean, I'm just humbled by what I'm reading about the work that you do and how important it is and how it's voluntary. It's a nonprofit. It's not a government agency, a bloated, fat, you know, government agency. These are real people doing a very important job, and I support you 100%.
You know, it's God's work with Dave, Tim Miller, all of the search and rescues. We had Brian on the other night, Brian Smith. These are folks who, look, Twila's there. She's a mother, and she's down in Atlanta on a case. Dave calls upon her, and she just, you know, let's go, boss. Let's do it. I, too, am recommitting myself to anything that I could do for these folks. And right now it's a law enforcement bridge, you know, where we can make contact with folks. I'm batting, my batting average sucks, but I'm trying to do the best I can for Tim Miller, Dave Rader, and the crew here. You know, Gene, again, anytime that I could be of help to you and generating funds, this is a way I can help. And for me, I can't fly a drone. I certainly can't. I'm not great at searching. I don't know the right way to do these things, but I'm willing to learn. If you'll let me crash a couple of your planes, those what did Tim call them? Your toy planes?
Toy airplane?
Yeah. If you let me try it, I'll give it a whirl. Emily, thank you for the super chat, $5 in gratitude for all who search. Now, gentlemen, we have a few different cases that we cover here, and I've covered many missing, and Maya Miliete comes into mind. Oren and Orson West, 2 California City Bakersfield boys. We wanted to go out there. Bakersfield gave us the kibosh. I want you to talk a little bit about, and we're running into this with Summer Wells too. Hawkins County has said, we don't need you right now, but we will eventually need you. So we're in this holding pattern. I want you to talk a little bit about some of the struggles early on in 2014, 2015, maybe earlier, that you had with the Federal Aviation Administration. Gene, I told you I was going to walk you into this, but you could tread lightly or you can go full force with it.
No, I really don't have any problem with this. I think it's part of the advocacy and the efforts that we made to make drones more acceptable. The FAA in 2006, February 13th, 2006, ask me how I remember that, grounded all drones. And that was at a time when we had been working with the FAA very diligently to come up with a process and a procedure for a safe process to use drones. And they told us then, said, look, don't get excited. 6-8 months, you'll be back in the air, no problem. Well, it only took them 10 years. And I was going to continue, and they had come out and they clarified and said that we are not going to allow any commercial operation of drones. And I was like, okay, I understand that. I'm a pilot as well. I have a pilot's license, an FAA pilot's license. So I get it. I understand the safety argument. However, when they said the commercial operations were not allowed, I decided I'm still going to do this one way or the other. So I approached the IRS and I applied for my 501c3, which by definition is a non-commercial entity. And I continued on. And it rocked the FAA back for, about a year. They didn't know how to react to it. And they finally came up, and I was on a search in far north Texas. And I was doing the right thing. Like I said, I'm a pilot. I called the flight service station and said, look, guys, I'm out here. I'm going to be flying. It was a 7-year-old child, and he had been missing for 5 days. And I told them what I was going to be doing and how I was going to be doing it. And they said, wait a minute, 5 days, you know what? We don't see that. And that's going to be a recovery, don't you think? And I said, look, I don't ever second guess anybody these days, so I'm not going to say that. And he said, well, we think it's going to be a recovery, so there is no imminent loss of life. So it's not an emergency, so disapproved. And I was standing next to the dad talking on my cell phone at the time. And I said, I'm sorry, sir, but I am not going to tell this gentleman what you just said. You're going to tell him. So I watched that gentleman, said, yes, here I am. And I watched him get redder and redder and redder as that conversation took place. And I really thought I was going to lose my phone because I thought he was going to smash it to pieces.
Wow.
But that led to I got a letter from the FAA legal, and it was a cease and desist operations. And actually, it wasn't a letter. It was an email. It was an email, as a matter of fact. And I was like, wow. So the Fed has shut me down. So I didn't know what to do, and I was approached by a lawyer out of New York. And he said, hey, I heard about that. And he says, I'm willing to take your case pro bono. I was like, you know what? Knock your lights out. Because at this point, all I could lose was my pilot's license, right? And I said, go ahead. I'm not flying planes these days, so go ahead and take it. So
did that lead to this?
That would be the very one that I'm talking about. And so we started fighting it. And it was very interesting. I think it made it to the 7th DC Court of Appeals. And they were nervous because it was going to be some bad publicity, for, shutting down a search for a child. And
that's not a good look. That's not a good look.
No, it's not a good look. So anyway, it was actually dismissed on a technicality, which, counselor, you can probably elucidate a little bit more on this. But at the time, an email was not an allowable legal instrument.
Joe?
So they rejected.
You want me to take that up?
Go ahead. Take it away.
You want me to put it back up so you could read it?
Oh no, I have it right in front of me over here, and I gotta say, I mean, your affidavit, Gene, was wonderful. It was really striking. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read paragraph 6. Paragraph 6, Gene writes, for example, Devon Davis, age 2, went missing from his home in Southwest Texas in April of 2012 after extensive search efforts had failed, including manned helicopters and a Texas Equisearch was planning to terminate. As Texas Equisearch was planning to terminate the search, a model aircraft was used. After a single 15-minute flight, the images captured by the camera and reviewed by my wife, kudos to your wife, on a computer showed the red shirt Devon was wearing. Devon's body was recovered in swampy water mere feet from where searchers and kayaks had already passed by. And then I just want to skip down to where it says, because of the presence of alligators in the water, had the body not been found by the model aircraft, it likely never would have been. And Devon's family would to this day not know what happened, what became of their child. That's incredible. I mean, just reading that paragraph, it just humbles me what you people are doing. And Gene, you are all in. You, your wife, I see what you're doing. And I really am just, it's commendable what you're doing in the service of others. We need more of that in this country. There's too much division and strife right now. So I love that you guys are here. You need to be, commended for what you're doing. It's so important. But getting back to the case and the incredible work, and it demonstrates how important your service is. And I thought that paragraph also addresses the FAA's position. Oh, it's really a recovery. It's not a rescue mission. Recovery is just as important, as you pointed out there. Not knowing what happened to your child. And you make that good point with the existence of the alligators in that swampy water. They may never have learned if the search was stopped and the drone was not used. So it just shows and it proves how important it was to do what you guys did. So yes, it was dismissed on the technicality, and I can explain that very simply. And the fourth branch of our government, the administrative agencies, in order to review a decision from an administrative agency, the courts have said, you can't keep running to us every time something happens. It has to be a final determination, or there's some legal consequence. Somebody fined you, somebody suspended you, somebody took some action against you. We don't want to review everything the agency does. The courts, selfishly with judicial economy, only want to decide matters that are the final determination and decision of the agency. In this case, they dismissed the petition on that very basis. They said this was the agency attorney, I believe, who was commenting on their interpretation of the law. That's not a final determination, as the court held, which is really ridiculous because they're telling you what you're doing is illegal. That sounds pretty final to me. However, as the court looks at it, it's their opinion about the law. So, that's why that technicality struck your petition. But I'm so glad you persevered and you continued on, because that work that you do, I can't stress it enough, and people need to support you and donate to your foundation. It's an incredible effort that you're doing, and look at what you did in this case. And I want to point to paragraph 6 again. In the Summer Wells case, that terrain is pretty rough there, and there was talk about bears, and Dave, you could talk about that as well, and Twila. The animals that are there. So time is of the essence when you're using technology like this. And paragraph 6 really just drove that home to me. So thank you for what you're doing. Again, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, and you don't get thanks from an attorney, especially a criminal defense attorney, often. So yeah, Joe, Joe, you got a heart as big as anybody that I've ever met. And I got to say, I'm honored to be friends with you, because You have so much information and smarts, and you're a wealth of information, and you're an invaluable tool for this community. I want to put everybody's attention to paragraph 8 as well. And in paragraph 8, it says this technology has saved lives. They're talking about drones. The same camera-equipped Spectra model aircraft used by Texas EquuSearch has been used by a volunteer in a foreign country to locate and rescue abducted children who were to be sold into a sex slavery and eventually murdered, if not for the use of this model type aircraft. To protect the personal security of the individuals who were involved in that effort, further details cannot be publicly disclosed. And Gene, you can answer this or not. I know you and I discussed this. Is it true that you were involved in a little bit of stuff at the border in Mexico, or would you rather not talk about it?
No, because I don't go back there anymore. I can't.
As
Actually,
a defense attorney, I have to intercede here, and I have to advise you have a Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination.
All right, counsel. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your learned opinion. So
can I restate my question, Judge? Let me restate my question. And I won't even make it a question. It's admirable what you did down at the border, and God bless you for that, because it was very, very a risky operation, and it is still ongoing. This is still a very big issue at our border, and children are being trafficked left and right, and we all know this to be true. And it's
some of the
something
most incredible pictures I've ever taken in my life.
Yeah, I commend you for it, and man, I'd come down there and bring extra magazines and fight with you if I had to. So I'm a gun-toting American, illegal. I can carry in all 50 states. I have my federal license, so I can carry everywhere I go. I just got to unload it and put it in a lockbox and put it in with my checked luggage, and then as soon as I get out, comes out on my conveyor belt. I go right into the bathroom. I load up, and I'm good to go. So. Anyways, but yeah, I had to bring that up, and that was in paragraph 8, a quick mention about horrible situations that are going on with our children in this country and outside the country. Dave and Twila, I can't do a live stream without putting you on the spot.
Ron, just real quick before you move off that, paragraph 9 is the email and the language. Look at that language and tell me it says, I received a written directive from an FAA official that the operation of the model aircraft by myself or Texas EquuSearch for volunteer search and rescue purposes is illegal and must stop immediately. How is that not like a final cease and desist? Don't go any further. It's so for the court to, it's just disappointing, that they took that, version of it.
Yeah.
Not seeing that as a final determination,
How did you feel about that, Gene, when you were going through that little error there? Was it discouraging for you, or you said, I'm fighting?
I always kind of laughed at the people that, conspiracy theorists and the government is out to get you kind of thing. I said, nobody's going to come after a single, little old me kind of guy. And to be quite honest with you, it kind of scared me.
Yeah. It's enough to scare anybody when you're talking about the feds. All right, Twila, you're not getting off the hook here. So don't think that Joe Murray saved you. I'll mute Joe Murray if I have to. Twila, I need you as the search director, search coordinator, to talk to our audience about the value of drone searches.
I think it would be a really good tool for us to have out there when we go back for summer, because the terrain is horrible. And we did see a bear, me and another teammate, we did see that bear, like real life bear. And I think Gene would be a really big help to us out there. I really do think that would do us some good out there.
And anything else? Have you seen any of this stuff have you seen any of these drones in use in your times of doing searches?
Yes. We had one in Alabama, and I seen him fly. He actually flew at night and during the day. I didn't get to see the night part of it, but I did get to watch him fly a drone on another case that we had in Alabama, and I'm telling you, it's some good stuff, because they can get that drone down in little tiny spots that we can't get to, and it can see things from up above that we can't see. It's awesome. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
I told Dave he needs to just let me go ahead and learn to fly the drone. It probably wouldn't last that very long, but I would try.
Yeah, when those things crash,
The guy over there, that's who I want teaching.
he's a pro. Gene, I want you to quickly talk about some of the teachings that you do. The other day I called you. You said you left your phone home and you were teaching. What are you doing now for with the teaching? You're teaching law enforcement. You're teaching regular folks.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I've just kind of joined forces with a community college here, Austin Community College, and they have a public safety training center that is specific for public safety training. And obviously drones were a very natural fit. They have an EVOC track out there. They have a force-on-force room, which we also use with our drones because we fly them indoors and we fly them in confined spaces. And they have a gun range out there, and it's on a beautiful piece of property, and it's just a jewel. It's a good place to go. They've got 3 classrooms, and they've started teaching a course that is just for drones.
Right.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying right. That's great.
Okay. You can go to the ACC Public Safety Training Center website there, and they have some pretty good imagery on there. And we are expanding it. We are going to offer advanced courses in imagery and thermal using FLIR, search and rescue, confined space, SWAT tactics, how to, use the drone to be number 1 in the stack.
Wow.
So that you can potentially save a life as you go into those sorts of situations. And
That is awesome.
of course, me being fire, I've done a lot of fire stuff as well, and wildland fire situations are stuff that drones are made for, because it allows incident command to be able to see where the fire front is and where to put the wet stuff on the red stuff.
Right. And that's the important part, is that, getting to use these drones to their fullest capacity and full capabilities. I wanted to ask you quickly about your fleet that you had. You said somewhere between 15 and 50. That was a pretty good wide range of drones. Talk about the sonar that you have on there. What's the capabilities when you're flying up in the air? In layman's terms, let these folks know what you can and can't do. Do you have the heat sensing? I'm not saying it right. Talk about all that stuff.
Okay, well, the payloads are expanding for us. We started out just shooting 3 megapixel pictures, and then they added video, and then we went up to 10, 20 megapixels and 4K video. And I predicted back in 2005, I said, as payloads get smaller, we're going to see more and more different sorts of data being collected. And really a drone is just a truck. The truck carries the cargo out there. We fill it full of data and we come back. Mm-hmm. So we've now expanded from your usual RGB kind of images, regular color images, to near infrared, which is the upper end of the visible spectrum, which shows us so many different things about plant health and vegetation and disturbed earth. And we're now working on a grant from the NIJ to discover clandestine graves using drones. And we have already established some methodologies where we can actually see the heat from someone that is buried from a drone using thermal imagery. And that's been with Texas State University and their forensics anthropology research facility, which we kind of colloquially call the body farm. And that's been a blessing as well to be able to continue with that. Now, sonar and ground penetrating radar, which I never thought I would ever see ground penetrating radar with a drone, but it is coming to pass. Dave and Texas EquuSearch, we've used the sonar in it's a boat, but it's still a remote drone type boat to go into small ponds where we couldn't get a larger boat. It has just the same capabilities as, you know, a manned boat. And now we've done the POC, the proof of concept, where we can take a transducer, put the unit on the drone, transducer dangles underneath the drone. We can dip it into the pond and take a 360 view of the pond.
Wow.
So, I mean, the technology is there. We are just applying it in a little different way.
Can I ask a question to expand on that? I hate to be that guy. When I was in the police academy, they always said, don't raise your hand unless you got something smart to say. I'm that guy right now. Now, you take that drone and you put it in a pond or a river or a lake, and you dip the sonar in there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you move that drone to different places and then do more 360s to get? Okay. All right. So I wasn't that dumb. That wasn't that dumb of a question. I'm thinking from an investigator standpoint. Hey, if we got a big piece of a lake, I'm thinking of Summer Wells. It looked like it was a decent size body of water, and it went far across and far up and down. So now you could take that remote drone like you're flying it and go, oh, let's go across, and you could be on the shore and be across however far you can go with the drone.
Sure could.
That's freaking phenomenal. If the Hawkins County Sheriff's authorized Equisearch to come back, would you come back and do drone work there?
Of course. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, my aerial sonar is still being built. We've done proof of concept, and that's going to be kind of an expensive prospect, but we're gonna have it done.
We got the little, as Tim says, the toy aircraft, the toy boat.
Oh, buddy, the sonar. Yeah.
With the sonar.
Yeah.
With the sonar. That's phenomenal. I'm going to go quickly to the people in the chat. There's over 1,500 people here. So let me go full screen on me and watch how that drops down to maybe 900. I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat. If you're new here and first time watching one of the DutyRon Crime Time educational live streams, we have a drone pilot expert and search and rescue from Equisearch. He works hand in hand with Twila and Dave and Tim Miller, Gene Robinson from Texas, SAR Drones. That's Gene Robinson, SAR Drones. Let me know if you're new here in the chat by putting a new, and also let me know if you're enjoying this live stream. We're going to get to the questions and answer. I like to do my roll call, so let me know where you're watching, city, state, or country. And let me give you a quick shout out. Hello, Kathleen. Welcome in. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Joey Brooklyn. Just in case you guys don't know it, Joey is from Brooklyn. Juanita, thank you for being new. I appreciate you being here. Hello, Roxanne from Mississippi. Anybody from the great state of Texas here? Hello, Ohio. Welcome in. Thank you, Becky from St. Louis, Missouri. Hello from Cape Town, South Africa. Welcome in. Appreciate you being in here. Hello from Nova Scotia. Excellent. Great to see you. Australia, put another prawn on the Barbie. Great to see you. Thank you for joining from Scotland. We have people from all over the world. Portland, Oregon. Hello from Illinois. Good to see you. Anybody from Georgia? If anybody's in Georgia, I could tell you where Dave and Twila are staying. You can go over there and buy them a drink. I wouldn't do that, brother. Thank you so much for the super chat. Meg Shoot says, tell Dave and Twila their teammates love them from Tennessee. Megan Shoot. Is it shut or shoot? Shut?
That's Megan, that's one of our teammates. She's in Tennessee with me.
Excellent. Excellent. The chat's going so fast. Hello from United Kingdom. Great to see you. Salt Lake City, Utah. Nurse Granny. Welcome in, Nurse Granny. Thank you for joining. Hello, Evelyn. Canada, welcome in from Canada. Thank you for joining. Alabama, welcome in. Hoorah, good to see you. Thank you. Matty Boy Sully, thank you for your service to the Marines. Appreciate you, brother. Who else is here? Mimi J2. Listen, I got to say thank you to all my moderators. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everything that you do, all of your hard work You guys are a tremendous, tremendous asset to this community. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me get everybody back in before I lose all of my people. Guys, you see this? People coming in, chiming in from all over the place. The UK.
Yep. And Gene's been probably half of those that you've mentioned.
Yeah, he's a world traveler, huh? Carol is checking in from. Look at this, New Zealand. Kia Ora from New Zealand. I have a good friend that lives in Auckland, New Zealand. So thank you for joining. New Jersey.
I have a question. Do I have to do a super chat to get this in?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Here we go.
Murray, go ahead. Talk. I'm
Gene,
sorry. You can't
I
hold
just wanted to ask you, I know you've explained some of this technology, but when you're doing these flyovers with the drone, are you watching real time? And what's that screen like? Are there 2 or 3 people watching? How do you do that? And then, like when your wife found Devin Davis, who's involved in that expanded search when you review the camera and zoom in on these certain areas that you find evidence of?
Well, we've expanded our operation a little bit, and with donations, we got a 25-passenger shuttle bus that I converted into a mobile command unit. My wife was in the mobile command unit. We had computers set up in there so that she could review the images. I would go out and fly. On Devin Davis' case specifically, I went out with Texas Rangers armed with M16s because the alligators would try to eat you because it was breeding season. So, I had armed escort with me, and she would review the images. And she's the one that drilled down in there. And I said, I told her, it looks like an ice chest or something. She said, no, you need to go check that. And I said, yes, dear, I'll go check that. And it turned out to be Devin. And it was literally as everyone was packing up. But the mobile command unit has been just a godsend for us. I now have an ambulance. I use an ambulance that I converted. It has a 40-inch TV in it. So I can stream the video in. And we haven't even talked about software yet. Working with developers in Canada, the folks at USRI are coming up with softwares that will actually view the data stream and scan it for you if you're looking for somebody that was wearing a red shirt. And to be honest with you, I can tell you that I found a red sports car where all I could see was like 1 square inch of through the tree canopy.
Wow.
And it hit on it. And I was like, again, being the skeptic, saying, oh, that was nothing. But I gave it to the team, and they went out there. And, oh, yeah, by the way, here's the sports car. We found it. So, I mean, there's so much more to it. I mean, it's getting so sophisticated that, you need to have that mobile office, if you will, to be able to get quiet and in Texas get cool because it's very hot and go over the images very methodically or use the software to scan the images with. So we've kind of advanced the game a little bit. It's not just, you take the drone out there and throw it and, go after it. You certainly can to great effect, but you can even be more effective if you use some of the other technology that surrounds it as well.
That's great. I mean, I was looking at it and saying, wow, maybe if you had other screens in that command center and other people viewing them, like, can you in real time, as these images are coming over, let's say I'm on my screen and I see something and you're like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And I decide I want to zoom in on a particular thing. Does that disrupt, like what anyone else is seeing? I mean,
again, our friends at USRI, I can now, if I have an internet connection, I can stream that video to anywhere in the world.
Wow.
So if I'm not an expert in, a given area, I can stream that to someone who is, and they may be in Vancouver or Mexico or wherever, and they're looking at it. I'm flying the drone, doing my job. They're using their expertise and their experience, watching the live video feed from 2,000 miles away.
That's fantastic. When you're flying the drone, is there like a pattern that you fly, like painting a canvas? You want to make sure you cover every
mow
inch.
the lawn.
Okay.
We do a mow the lawn pattern. Go
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
turn around, come back, and you make sure that I lost so much sleep in the early days of trying to figure out, did I get 100% coverage? Because from a drone's perspective, if you're over 10 feet, you just missed a big chunk of territory. So now that we came out with these computer controlled autopilots, if you will, that are GPS accurate, we can set up those patterns and we can tell it how much to overlap even. It can be 10% overlap all the way up to 90% overlap.
Wow.
And I am absolutely assured that I have got 100% coverage. And that's one more little thing off my checklist I don't have to worry about.
That's great.
That's
You know,
amazing.
lastly, I know this is DutyRon's show, and I hate doing this to him, but I just love what you guys do. Are you doing grant writing and stuff? Because we constantly hear the stupid things that the government is putting money out for. And this, to me, is just such an amazing nonprofit that should be fully funded by all these government grants, that the ridiculous things you hear they're spending it on. How are you guys doing with that? Are you able to, do you need grant writers? Like, how can I help you?
Absolutely, Joe. I got to tell you, I am absolutely lousy at asking for money. I'm just, you know, I can fly things. I can make anything fly. I can make it sound great, but if you want me to close a deal or ask for, I can't do it.
You need to get a politician, because they have no shame asking for money to run for office. Oh, I'm sorry. No.
I have no shame asking for money for guys like Dave Rader and Gene Robinson, Dave Rader, Brian Smith, these great people who are out there doing God's work, as me and Bill say. I have no problems asking people to donate. And if anybody can donate, I encourage you. These guys do not send bills to the families, to the police organizations, to counties. Hawkins County won't get a bill from Dave Rader anywhere that they go. And again, I revert back to 1,860 searches in 42 states, including Aruba, the Natalie Holloway case, Sri Lanka, Mexico, Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, and Nicaragua. These guys leave the country. That costs an extreme amount of money, and they do it not to get paid. Dave, you want to expand on that?
I can't thank you enough, Ron, and Joe, and Bill's not on here to thank him, but you guys have been a tremendous help to us as far as bringing in funding for us to be able to continue on. And again, it's never been about the money, nor will it ever be about the money. The people that I have in my corner and have my back, they're doing it for the right reason. And I'm very blessed in having the people that I have. If we didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, it doesn't matter to them. They'll do it anyway. They do it for the right reason, and that's where I'm blessed. And for my, from some kid that's 11th grade education to where I sit today, and some of the great company of a man like Gene and Dennis and Tammy Waters as far as the water, I'm speechless. I feel like a speck in the ocean. But we all come together and we make this work. I mean, I had Gene about 6 weeks ago. I picked him up, and it was a hellacious day for him flying. It was on short notice to St. Louis to work with the FBI and in one of the law enforcement agencies up in Chicago. And it was a late night. I picked him up at I think midnight on my birthday. So that's how important that Gene is to me, is that I couldn't even drink a damn beer on my birthday because I had to pick him up at the airport. So the next morning we got out at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I don't even know if we want to go into that snafu. But it worked out well.
We'll save it for another live stream because we're into this over an hour already.
Are you tired of us? I mean, I've got full battery.
You're plugged in? Oh, boy.
Ron,
I'm plugged in and ready to go.
Gene,
Ron,
what do you got?
Say this, please. You can ban me afterwards.
Council declined. The council. No. How much battery you have on yours, Gene? Are you plugged in?
I am actually solar and hot and plugged in, so you're not going to outrun me.
Yeah. Go ahead, counsel.
You know, you have what, 50,000 subscribers already. We need to start a campaign. Remember when we were trying to get that stimulus money, and the speaker held it up because money had to be earmarked for the Kennedy Library? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that our public officials, what their priorities are, and it should be a nonprofit like these two organizations here who are doing invaluable services to the community. That's where they should be putting this grant money. We all need to get our representatives, raise them up. You know, all these YouTubers, they spend hours and hours listening to me bloviate on these shows. Spend 5 minutes and send a letter and email to your representatives and tell them, this is where I want my money, my public funds to be awarded, right here. Not these other ridiculous, I can't stand it. I see the terrible waste that goes through with government. And here we have such an incredible organization that's doing invaluable work, and we're trying to raise money here. The public funding that should be going right to this organization. We need to stand up. In this country, you have to, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. You have to make noise and tell your representatives, this is where I want you to spend our money. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
You know what? Listen, I love your passion, and I would get behind 100 gazillion% a movement like that. I'm not good at writing myself. As Gene said, my wife says my handwriting looks like chicken scratch. So I'd write a letter off to one of our representatives. They put it in the garbage pail. But I need somebody like you, a criminal defense attorney that has some smarts to write up something, and I'll get 100,000 signatures on it. I'll get more than that. I'm sure everybody here in the chat would sign a letter and send it off to their representatives if we asked them to. By a show of hands here in the chat, by putting a 1 in the chat, if you would write and sign a letter asking for Congress and asking for our politicians to fund these type of organizations, put a 1 in there if you'd like to do that. If you don't think it's a good idea, then don't put anything in the chat. But yeah, I'd like to see and do a poll here and see how many people. There it goes. A bunch of number 1s going up and down. This whole thing is just lighting up with number 1s. I can't even get them. They're going that fast. Gentlemen, ladies, if you don't mind, I'd like to get to the question and answer period. I promised everybody questions. I got the private chat. You guys can look at it. Josh has been kind enough to accumulate some of these questions. The first one comes from Buddy 2021. Candace has mentioned, that's Candace and Don Wells for Summer Wells, the parents, that they like taking the boys to a place called Ducktown, which is a halfway between their home and Jonesboro, where Don was supposed to work that day. Ducktown is an old mining town with old abandoned copper mines. Is this an area being taken into consideration? And would it be possible to check out those old mine shafts with drones? This is for you, Gene.
Well, interestingly enough, we've done some mine searches. We use tethered drones, and I've laughingly called it the mine cam out in California, where we've lowered this thing down into all the way down to the bottom of 200-foot mines.
Wow.
And it worked. It works like a treat. So yeah, I mean, there's always that possibility. There, you know, a drone it can be wheeled, it can be tracked, it can be winged, it can be, I mean, so many different things. You ask a robot to go into harm's way so a human doesn't have to. Of course, certainly, the answer is yes.
Excellent. Here's another question coming in from one of our chatters, Tay Brooks. She's a subscriber. As you can see, the little red subscribe. Everybody who has a red is a subscriber. Tay Brooks sends in at DutyRon. Can you ask the guys what all resources do they have available to them? I guess I'll let Dave take that first. What about the resources?
You know, I got the best in the world in my corner. So I've got Gene for the air. I've got Dennis and Tammy Waters for the water. I've I've had ground penetrating radar. The case I'm on right now, I had horses that were on standby from Alabama. So, each time that I go out to a state and I do a search, I create a Rolodex as far as on who's helped me prior to. So if I ever have to go back to that state, I can go back through my Rolodex and see who assisted me. So then I could call upon them to come. So, and again, I've always sat there and said, I've got some of the best toys in my toy box. And if I don't have it, if I need a kitchen sink, I'll go to Lowe's and buy one and throw that in too. So, like I said, there's nothing shy about if we need a piece of equipment for a search that's going to get us results. I'm all about contacting and getting that resource in.
Let's piggyback off of that with Rags sends in a question. Why do you have to have permission to search? Why can't you just pull up and start searching?
You just can't do that. And I'm sure Dave and Twila are shaking their heads, but we will always coordinate with the agency who is handling the search itself. Many times it's SO, sometimes it's PD, sometimes it's emergency management office, but we will always coordinate with them first because, quite frankly, we are not privy to everything that they may have information on, and we do not want to do anything to mess up a potential case that they may be building. So we go under the direction of them, make sure that we have individuals who are trained and understand about evidentiary collection. And, we just want to supplement what the law enforcement has done, not barge in and roll over everything that they've already set up.
Right. And
to piggyback on that, Ron, I don't really want to call Joe down there to make sure that he bails me out of jail when I'm trespassing. So,
and Joe has the coin because tonight he's I'm going to get a bill at the end of this and it's going to be big. So, let me get back on. Yeah, you're right. Listen, we have to cooperate with law enforcement. We're not there to solve their case. We're there to help supplement the find. We're there to bring home the missing. Lost is not alone, right? So I'm wearing that wristband. I know Twila's got hers on. I sleep with this bad boy. I actually shower with it. I don't want to turn people off, but I shower with this thing. I never take it off. Let me get into a couple of more of the questions. How fast do drones fly, says Josh, the producer?
Actually, too fast. We slow them down. The flying wing could fly as fast as 45 miles an hour, dash up to 60. We use the multi-rotors now, and they're flying. They're putting along at 12 miles an hour, but still, from 200 or 300 feet up, the amount of geography that you can cover in a short period of time at a very high resolution is just head and shoulders above what brute manpower out there on the ground can do.
Amazing. And I didn't even know that. Let me get back to some of these super chats. How about council draw a letter up and we, the people, sign it?
Put him to work. Put him to work.
Yeah, council. He's giving a thumbs up.
I believe it because I go into the comments and I talk to people and we correspond back and forth. There are so many people who are so passionate about cases like this. They know the facts better than I do. They're so in tune to all this. I want to put that passion to good use and get grant money for these amazing organizations.
Single mom sends in a message. She's a subscriber and a channel member. I want Equisearch Midwest to come back, find Summer Wells, and possibly, I'm going to take out possibly, and find Summer Wells and bring Gino back with him. Gino from Texas. He's got to come and fly those drones there. There's no possibly single mom of 4. And I'm editing that comment. And come back, search for Summer Wells, and bring Gene and his drones. Amen.
I agree with that. And again, there's two folds to this, Ron, that I would love to figure out how we can sit there. I know that they use drones on Summer, but it was nothing like what Gene can do with a drone. That's number one. How can we sit there and touch base with Hawkins County to make sure that they know exactly that this is a man that has a specialty, and it's not like any other drone that they had flying that day, or even thought of with the technology. That's number one. Number two is that we need to sit there and, with the boys out in California, we've got to get something in their hands to let them know what Gene can do with these birds. So there's two things that we need to sit there and really try to figure this out, as far as, because I think that these are two good cases that Gene could actually be beneficial in.
Yeah, and like Gene said earlier, there's some spots that law enforcement searches that they may miss something or go over something that they wouldn't have necessarily gotten to see because of the look that you get from a drone. I will, with your permission, or if you want, call back to Bakersfield and talk to the lieutenant and the sergeant that I spoke to, and bring that up to them gladly. I'll do that for.
I think coming from law enforcement, I think is going to have a greater impact than what myself could sit there and and do.
So I'm going to have a conversation with Gene a little bit more in depth, and then I will, Monday morning when I get back, because I'm leaving town tomorrow. I got a wedding that I got to attend out of
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going. Yeah, it's a little bit of trip. So I'm traveling about 4 miles south to 4 hours, not 4 miles, 4 hours south. That was a good laugh.
Big difference there.
4 hours south down into outside of Baltimore. So it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. So Monday I will circle back and contact Gene, and then we'll work on Bakersfield and Hawkins County to talk about.
Can I say one more thing, Ron? I almost feel like I'm Joe. I just hold on a second. Let me just say something.
You could take the show over, brother.
Here's the other thing is that Gene, we didn't even touch on locate. I don't believe, did we?
No, we just talked briefly about the software. Yeah.
I think Ron, do you want to cut your show off? There's the technology end of this. And if I didn't see this on Anaya Blanchard's case down in Alabama, I would have never believed what I seen that Gene had accomplished. And I'll let him go into this. But, and I think, Joe, you were saying something about how many people were actually looking at pictures.
Yes.
And I can attest, and Gene can also, is that he would go up and fly it, and then we had a person that was on the ground that he was feeding it to, and then he also had a team, I believe, up at Purdue University, correct, Gene? That were also looking at these pictures. So
real time.
Yeah, but it was just incredible. I'm colorblind, and Gene flew this, and so is Gene. So he flew this, and he comes to me the next morning now, and he can probably tell you how he flew it, but he comes to me the next day because Anaya was abducted out of Auburn, Alabama, and her car was found 52 miles outside of Montgomery. So we had not only a 52-mile search grid, but we had to take about 3 to 4 miles off of every exit that was off of I-85 going down. So our search grid was enormous. And Gene come up with this. He says, Dave, we got to go out and check this. And it was in a clear cut in the middle of nowhere. It shouldn't have been there. And I think the color was purple, right, Gene? And again, we're walking to this, and he goes, here it is. And literally, the man has it on screen right now. It was about the size of a damn silver dollar that he's seen from 800 feet out of a moving plane.
Yep.
How the hell do you even do something like that?
It was amazing.
It was just absolutely amazing to me.
Let's talk
So,
about.
that's the technology that Gene needs to really, or the software, I should say.
And, really, I'm trying to disseminate as much of this information as I can to other police departments. And as a matter of fact, Dave worked on a case there, and I believe it was Alabama, Dave, that I actually sent a piece of my equipment, one of my specialized payloads, to the SO there that had birds that could fly it. And I had them fly the bird since I couldn't get there. I was doing some other things and teaching. So they flew it under my instruction, put the images up in the cloud, and I analyzed them. So, you know, we can work smarter on this now that we've got the technology to be able to do this. You know, California, you know, Kansas, wherever, if they're flying drones, I'm happy to give them what is in here that might help them do it, and use the software to try to find something as small as a silver dollar that might be a clue to solving any one of these cases. I mean, I love to fly. I'm a pilot, but let's face it, running through the airport is getting kind of old for me. And, you know, if I can do it sitting here in my PJs in my office with a computer, why not? And I think it's a good growth tool for these agencies as they go out there and try to do this on their own. I'm happy to help them.
We just need to get, we need a platform in order to get as many of these law enforcement agencies on board. That's what it's going to take.
And it seems like, Gene, you are reaching little bits and in pieces at a time in all these cases that you, I mean, the video I watched when you were out there with the two, one detective and a deputy, they purchased their own drone and you were instructing them, and you were in the back of the vehicle. It started raining, it looked like. And you guys went up and you were looking at that old cemetery. I have that here. I would play it if you, that's on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
That was great. Some great footage. I mean, it's going to take up some time. I'd rather sit and talk to you, but that's an example of you reaching to some of your local law enforcement, and it doesn't really take much to sell this because it sells itself. Really,
it's a force multiplier.
Oh yeah, 100%. Ozzy, thank you for the question. Ozzy says, does Gene need permission from law enforcement if he has the necessary licenses to fly the drone? Can you just, I think what she's asking is, can you just go and secretly fly the drone and just say, well, I'm just flying my drone?
Counselor, can I answer that question?
Counsel? He's muted.
He's muted.
Yeah. Well, I didn't
muting the lawyer here. That's great.
I would never do that, counsel. Counsel, with all due respect, you got the floor.
Thank you. No, the FAA has their rules, as we now see in this case, and I am not up on their rules specifically, but if you are allowed to do it and it's public lands, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be allowed if it's FAA permissible. But again, as we talked about so many times on your show and Police Off the Cuff, interfering with an active investigation comes with great peril.
Yes.
So I think it's prudent to contact law enforcement, coordinate with law enforcement, and work with law enforcement, because we're talking about a criminal investigation that may uncover evidence that needs to be recovered properly and preserved in evidentiary form, and it will be introduced at a trial perhaps. So I think people doing things on their own, I love the spirit of it, but I would prefer, and I would think you professionals would also recommend that they contact law enforcement.
Absolutely.
You know, back in the day, Joe, you know, I have been called a rogue before. And, you know, if there was a life on the line, I, you know, throw caution to the wind and go for it. And that's why I ended up being a poster child. But yeah, if you know, and I think a lot of that is intent. You know, if you're going with intent to try to collect evidence in that particular case, you are severely in the wrong if you do it with law enforcement. Under Part 107, the FAA Part 107, you can fly just about anywhere in echo airspace. And, you know, that's no big deal. You have a reasonable expectation of privacy. I've been through all of that legal jargon and stuff from the beginning. So yeah, it's intent, and if you do it that way, then you could be in severe trouble.
Let me go to some of the questions because there's a ton of them, and I got to get to these all. What is the? This comes in from the producer, Josh. You giving us more work? Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you. What is the cost of the one you use, the drone? Do you use different ones according to your search locations and as needed?
Yes, we have successfully used drones as inexpensive as $500. Most of the drones that I use are significantly more than that. For example, the FLIR imagers that we use that were donated, thank you very much, are $15,000 all by themselves.
Wow.
The drones themselves, as a matter of fact, we were flown to Kauai. And there was a gentleman there that had just gotten his drone. And he said, "Here you go, Gene. I know who you are. I know you're a good pilot. It's only $32,000. Go out there on the island and fly it for me."
Interesting.
So you got to be past the fear of flying to pick up a $32,000 drone and, fly it out over Waimea Bay and know you're going to bring it back.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's an expensive piece of equipment. It's almost like what Brian discussed with the dogs. They're not going to put their search dogs in an area where there's wild packs of dogs where they're going to have a fight. You invest a lot of money in training and obtaining these dogs. It's not something that you just want to recklessly use. You got to be responsible with it. Hey, Dave.
I mean, hell, what was the one that was donated to you that you gave to me, Gene? I mean, how much was that? I mean,
that's an Arion Sky Ranger, and that's a military grade piece of equipment, and that one is $150,000 a copy.
Wow. Oh my.
But it's amazing of what this thing is capable of.
I saw Stace on the case. Can I answer her question real quick?
Sure. I don't know where it went, but go ahead if you can remember it.
She asked if in Texas, and this is something I can speak to, can you point a camera in the front yard but not the back bedroom or the bathroom window? Well, actually, Texas passed their own privacy laws, and individuals cannot do that, and commercials operators cannot do that either without the operators or without the owner's permission.
Okay.
Now, law enforcement, public safety has some loopholes that they can do to fly it with, but then of course you don't expect public safety to put your bathroom pictures up on YouTube either. So yeah, that's why they get the exception.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
that's something I've never encountered. Obviously, I'm a New York City attorney. I've never really encountered that. But I wonder, because you mentioned it, the reasonable expectation of privacy, that out of the normal view, you wouldn't be able to see into someone's bathroom. But if you're 100 feet up above at an angle, I think law enforcement might need a warrant in certain circumstances. It might be dangerous to do that without a warrant anyway.
Yeah, and you got to understand that camera, or that system that I just mentioned that Dave has, and I have a version of it as well, has a zoom camera on it that you can read a license plate from 2 miles away. So
yeah, those are those plate readers. The plate readers. We have them.
Well, no, I mean it's just the optics are that good that you could easily read a plate. So if you could read a plate from 2 miles, I would imagine that you could look in just about any window you wanted, if you were so inclined.
Right.
Joe, you remember when the NYPD installed those street cameras in Times Square and everybody was like, oh, this is an invasion of privacy. They were doing iris scans to catch people who had warrants and people who were wanted felons.
Right.
And still the legal teams that fight for people's rights said, oh, that's an invasion of privacy. And they tried to get them to remove them, but NYPD fought it and they kept them because it was under the guise of public safety, is how they want it. It's probably something more, counsel. So don't quote me on that.
Yeah, no, you're right. But the reasonable expectation of privacy when you go into a bathroom, whether it's a public bathroom or not, you have an expectation of privacy there. But out in the street in Times Square, you don't have an expectation of privacy.
Right. So we were making a lot of arrests because a lot of bad people would travel around in the city and thought that they were just free to travel around. And I worked in fugitive, so we would get called out on these things. Hey, we got a, felony fugitive of justice wanted out of California or whatever, or wanted here. And we would go out there and we'd get the exact description of, like a 6-megapixel photo of them zoomed right in. Then we had their NICID number, we had date of birth, everything. And we would just go in there in plain clothes and just scoop them up and bring them back. So, and that's technology. So we're using the analogy here of identifying human remains or folks who are missing or disoriented. We saw the 75-year-old man who was out in the middle of the wilderness in a cornfield, I believe it was, or something like that, and he was recovered by use of drone. Use of a drone. So I feel it's an unbelievable tool. People are asking so many questions. Dave, I don't know if you want to take this one, but a couple of people, it's a redundant question that keeps coming through. Why did Hawkins County, what excuse did they give of why we couldn't come there? And I could answer it if you want me to, because I spoke to them too.
If you want to go ahead and go ahead, Ron.
So Hawkins County said at this time they felt that the Equisearch coming back would not enhance the case because they're going based on leads and information on places to search, not just open searches. They did that for 13 or 14 days, night and day or whatever. They were camped out there for 13 days, and they feel like at this time that they covered the ground that they need to cover. That doesn't mean that we don't feel that it should, it's not a bad idea to cover 3 and 4 times the same ground or 5 and 6 times. But I don't think Dave or myself are in a position to start debating. It's a relationship that you want to have with law enforcement. You don't want to burn your bridges by being cocky or being sarcastic or, trying to overstep your bounds. It's a fine line that you walk. Because I know from being a professional law enforcement guy, we don't take kindly to folks that are outside of our jurisdiction trying to tell us what to do, and it holds true in different parts of the United States. And Bakersfield is no different. But they're in Bakersfield, the reasoning is that they felt that at this time that just arbitrarily searching around it was not going to help the case, but they said. That doesn't mean we don't want you to come back. Now, everybody has their theories. They feel like they're covering this and they're doing this and doing that. They don't want the boys to be found. I find that law enforcement as a whole wants to bring people home to their families. There's no massive widespread corruption where a whole entire police department, including the upper echelon, would say, let's cover up the 2 boys that went missing. We'd like them never to be found. I think it's quite opposite. They would want them to be found because this is a high-profile case, and the mayor, the female mayor there, is asking them for updates probably on a weekly basis. What's going on? So it's not just the police department in Bakersfield is just trying to sweep it under the rug. I think quite to the contrary. If somebody could find them, they would want to get closure to this and have this case closed. Guys, any experience with law enforcement? Am I speaking a different language here?
No, they have to manage their resources, and there are many agencies that will budget X number of dollars for this sort of operation, or this sort of investigation. And I certainly sympathize being in with a fire department that's on a budget that, if we get called out on a search, if we're spending 3 days out there with a lot of manpower and paying them overtime and stuff like that, that burns through a budget very, very quickly.
Right.
So I can sympathize with that. And you do sometimes have to wait for a credible lead when all the other leads, including, and Dave will attest to this, we listen to psychics and you name it. If somebody reads tea leaves, we'll run on it. But, agencies can't do that. I mean, it's just, pretty soon their constituents would start asking, hey, when are you going to start protecting us and, quit looking for, some lost individual? So I get it.
Yeah. And, law enforcement says in Hawkins County, I was also told that their phone lines were being inundated with phone calls from psychics. I think that Tony told me they received 183 calls the weekend Dave went down there on the 24th from psychics. So,
well, and the other thing too that kind of hurt us was everybody that was doing their own thing, is that they weren't doing things. I had a mission that I had thought out and put a lot of thought process into it, and then when we went to execute it, I made sure that I had the right proper channels that I went through that knew exactly right where we were going to be, how we were going to accomplish it. And I think what really got us on the back burner, you might say, is because of the people that were just going rogue and doing their own thing. And that's what really tore us to pieces, is because they were going out on property without getting permission. That's number one. Number two is that they were leaving gates open. And you got to remember that there's, $1,500 a head for cattle. That's a boatload of money. So, they weren't, you love their enthusiasm for going and wanting to find summer. I get that and I understand it, but there's a protocol that you have to go through and proper procedures that you have to do. And now that it wasn't followed through like that, now we're being kind of stymied a little bit. But again, I think, and again with Gene, I concur with him as far as, you come to a point into the investigation where things just start to kind of run dry. Do I have a personal opinion as far as keep expanding the circle? Absolutely, I do. But again, I don't want to sit there and cross any boundaries, because that line of communication is still open, and we do have. And again, Tony sat there, and this was a second in command to Sheriff Lawson. Is that we did nothing wrong. We did everything by the book. We turned our paperwork in. They were very ecstatic that we did cover the ground that we did. And with that being said, that I think that we have that good camaraderie, that if something does come up and that we're needed, I think that we'll be one of the first ones to be called. But again, I would love to sit there and put a bug in Tony's ear that we have Gene Robinson, one of the best in the damn country, with a drone, and how about if we give it a try? And again, we don't need a lot of fanfare. We don't need a lot of dog and pony show to come in. We can come in, do our thing, and right back out without probably anybody even knowing what the hell we did.
Yeah. Again, Monday I'm looking forward to making that call. And like I told you,
you're welcome, Gene.
I spoke to Tony first before you got to speak to him, because you didn't pick up your phone. He called you and you didn't answer. So
I thought it was a car warranty again. I don't pick it up.
Your extended warranty, folks.
Warranty.
So I got a hold of Tony. We spoke for a good time, and that open line of communication was tremendous. We spoke about police stuff. He asked me about the NYPD. We had a great conversation, but he didn't say that it was off the table. So I think it's important that we get back with him to give him a little bit of an overview what Gene can offer for a good look at some of these areas back and over again. And it wouldn't take more than a day or so for him, probably just a weekend, a Saturday and part of a Sunday, and he'd probably be out of there. So
I know Twila's wanting to go back. I mean, that's a given. So I mean, we're all on board.
Yeah, and I would go down there with Eugene just to maybe to watch you fly this thing and just check it out. Search and Rescue K9 Mom sends in a $5 super chat, and she says, as I've messaged before, tell boss man Dave, K9 Capone and I are at the ready, and just say the word search. I forwarded your emails to Dave, and we both have it in the hopper, and we definitely appreciate that offer. So thank you, Search and Rescue K9 Mom and Capone, K9 Capone. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is, again, it's almost like a relationship where you know, you're on a first date and you want to be able to make a good impression, and you want not to ruin that open line of communication and trust. Because with police, once you break that trust, it's over. It's a wrap. There's no do-overs. There's no, hey, can I make this better? If they get egg on their face and it's not a good look, you're pretty much done. So again, I'll get together with you, Dave, before I make that call, and I'll talk with Gene, and we'll figure something out. And it's worth the college try to ask them to come on back and do it. You know, so
even to get their team to fly it again and let me look at it. I don't even have to be there. Let's do that.
Right.
Don't forget Gene's wife, Eagle Eye.
There you go. She's a big part of it, because listen, we know behind every good man is a great woman. So
and there you go.
Yeah. So that's how I stayed in this institution 30 years going, and I've been with my wife for 40. I don't know how she's put up with me, but let me see, how far and how high can your drones go? I guess it varies, right?
Well, we are legally limited to 400 feet above ground level.
Right.
We are legally limited to line of sight, so that we can see the aircraft and we can deconflict if there is a manned aircraft in there. There are certain exceptions, and now that there are rules in place, you can apply for waivers. When we went through the Memorial Day floods here in Wimberley, we got a waiver whereby we could put visual observers down the river well out of line of sight. As long as they could see the aircraft, it was okay. So, you know, again, now that we have rules, we can get waivers and we can work with the FAA. And I got to tell you, we beat them up, but, you know, they're doing the best they can, and they've done a good job at trying to respond to the drone community.
Yeah.
Gene, I got a question, and this is just coming up. I just thought about this down like on Summer's case, is that you say 400 feet from the ground. So down there, it's very mountainous. So how would that play out as far as like with the mountaintops? Is it from the top of the mountain, or is it from where you're deploying from?
It is the highest obstacle in your flight path.
Okay.
So if you are within 400 feet of that mountain, and the mountain is 1,000 feet, you can be 1,400 feet.
Okay.
But we wouldn't fly it that way. We would try to maintain 400 feet over the ground or less, so we could get the absolute best resolution flying up and down in the valleys.
Okay.
Excellent. Great question, Dave. I feel like Twila is not saying enough, so I want to ask Twila a couple of things. Some of the folks in the chat, Twila, don't think you're getting off easy here, sweetheart. We're gonna give you a run for your money. Oh, and by the way, a couple of people in the chat said that it wasn't nice that I said Alabama. And you know that was coming from the heart, and there was nothing wrong with me saying Alabama, because
it doesn't bother me a bit.
Yeah, so some of the ladies were sticking up for you and saying, "Oh, that wasn't nice that you did that to her." I did it in a loving way, and I say it in a loving way because I have family from Mobile, and my Mobile family on my wife's side, when I see them, we always say, "You're a Southern Belle, sweetheart," and I say Mobile, Alabama, because I'm from New York, you know. So New Yorkers say it like that.
It doesn't bother me a bit.
I didn't think so, but I had to put that out there. In the chat, some of the folks have asked, because Twila, you are the search director, right? The director of searching. You're coordinating the searches. To your knowledge, how much searching was done at that property, or did you see a lot of personnel, either Dave or Twila? But I'd rather Twila answer this. How much activity was there the days that you got there? Was it scoured with people? Did you see a lot of search guys and gals on the ground? And I know you guys were outside the property searching. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because people want to know.
As much as I'd love to answer your question, but I can't, because I wasn't there in the beginning days of when they were over at the property. When I came in, we had a different assignment that was, not in that particular area that you're speaking of. Now, Dave, he probably has an answer for you with that. Because when I first came in, we had a different assignment than Like when I came in my first day there, I didn't go on that road or near that house. Dave was there, I wasn't.
So
you want me to answer that?
So basically, she pushed it off onto you.
I had to.
She sure did.
I had to.
I hear Jean is cackling like a little schoolgirl in the background.
Yes.
And Joe Murray is looking at his law books right now. So it's like old business. So what do you got, Dave? Tell the audience what you saw.
All right.
Was there a lot of search dogs there? Were there a lot of people? Do you think that property was scoured well? Was everything checked on it, do you think, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to second guess myself as time goes on. I know that the area that we covered it very thoroughly. Now there was 1,000 people there when we hit the ground after day 5, and the amount of the tracks that they were using as far as on the GPS was just incredible. Now what I'm kind of going back and forth with in my brain is on teetering and tiring on is that we always look for both. So basically we're still looking for a live individual after day 5, but then in the back of our minds we're also thinking foul play. So if foul play was involved, we're also looking for places of concealment. So as our team was going, we're looking for both her, and we're looking for a live her, and then we're also looking for a deceased her. So I can't speak for the rest of how the rest of the search went. I'm hoping to God, between the dogs and the people that were on the property, that they covered it good enough. My question now is I'm starting to doubt, is what was the mindset of these guys for day 13 and 14? Were they looking for a live summer, or were they just looking, or were they looking also for a deceased? And that's a huge thing when it comes to search, because, if they're looking for just something that's just laying on top of the ground, then no, that they didn't miss her at all. 100%. She's not there unless she was moved back to it after it was all said and done, because it was no, it was a known fact of where everybody was searching in and around that house. So that's number one. Number two is that, now going back in hindsight, did people look under debris piles? Did people look at, if the ground was disturbed, how well was that looked into? So those are the kind of things now I'm starting to go back and forth on, is how much was thoroughly covered looking for a deceased little girl. And I hate to bring that up, because I want her to be alive in the worst way, but the reality is after day 60 plus, we're not looking so good.
Yeah.
And too, I have some of those thoughts that goes through my mind, like what was covered and how it was covered. I mean, he's always told us it's not cleared until we clear it. So not that we're discrediting anybody. It's just in our mind, we want to be able to do it for ourselves, to know that we've done it and it's been cleared. Not to say that nobody else didn't do it. We just haven't done it, so we really don't know what was done and how it was done. We know how we do it.
Right.
And I think that this would be a great opportunity for Gene to come in, and because he could sit there and take a lot of guesswork out of a lot of the places that we personally weren't there. We weren't personally on her property. So, for Gene to come in, he could take a lot of that guesswork out of without putting a lot of individuals on the ground.
I agree.
And there's another perfect example, Ron, if you look at it from that standpoint. Imagine first day they got the call, if I'd have gotten out there and I could have mapped that entire area and produced this big ortho mosaic that's very high resolution. We could look at all those things that Dave just discussed, ask if were they checked, and we could go through and methodically check and mark them off at each frame that we came through, and we could say, yes, that was searched, and yes, it was turned over, and yes, this is disturbed earth, but it was just a burn pit, or, again, first to deploy, get it out there, get a baseline before you start doing anything.
Right.
I think that's a great idea. I truly do feel like those drones should go in before us, because they can see things that we can't. And when they get what they get, then we can go in. And that also saves a lot of time. He's sending us directly to these areas or areas he's already cleared that we wouldn't have to even go into.
Right. And drones, as we spoke about early in this live stream, can see some of the spots that searchers couldn't see. Again, you'd have to get a helicopter up there and get imagery, and I'm sure that they have this, but things change. We've talked about a possible perpetrator moving this poor child based on the searchers and based on what is being reported by the media. So there could be many different scenarios where a second, third, fourth, and fifth look wouldn't hurt. And Tim Coop himself said on many press conferences, my guys are tired, my guys are beaten, and we need fresh sets of eyes. Gene up here, Dave, and your crew are fresh sets of eyes. Because
absolutely. And look at the cost of aviation fuel. Gene, I think, what is it, $1,500 to fuel a helo?
That's typically the cost for a Bell Jet Ranger is about $1,500 an hour.
Okay, so you're talking, is that manpower also included, or is that just?
It generally covers the pilot and the JAFO.
All right, so that's 1 hour, $1,500.
Wow.
1 hour. So if they're up there for 4 hours,
right?
I mean, you're talking $5-6 grand at a plane.
That's not even including paying the pilot overtime.
No.
If you go overtime, yeah, it can be up to twice that amount.
We saw the budget committee for Hawkins County have a meeting during this all going on. After those 13 days and they called off the searching, there was the sheriff and the Timmy Coop had to go into the budget. We saw it. It was on the news.
Right.
They live streamed it. And the budget people were like, it was a guy and a couple of girls, and they were like, hey, how are we going to pay for this? It's not that we were not going to pay for it, but we got to just start juggling things. So maybe they were taken away from children's programs or elderly or seniors or grants.
Rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
It happens.
To fill the gap and to to close that to close the budget to make.
We're zero. And we are zero.
No bill. It doesn't make any sense. Zero money, and a whole lot of resources.
We're proven. I mean, the man's proven. We're all proven. We've got fines under our belt. I mean, it's not like we're some
fly by night organization. I got to go to my handy notepad that tells me that there's 400 missing people returned safely by Equisearch. 230 sets of remains plus of missing people brought home to their families. And in parentheses and highlighted, never compromising evidence at a crime scene. Never, ever compromising evidence at the crime scene. I have pages and pages on you guys. I could just go on for days of some of my research that I did myself. So I tip my cap to Equisearch and everybody that's involved in this. Our primary focus is the victim and the families, getting closure for them, bring Summer Wells home. Where are the boys in California? We have Maya Miliete. We could go down a long list of folks. I mean, we would need an army of 40,000 searchers to even try to tackle all of the people who are missing across the United States. It's just overwhelming. So we have to pick and choose our battles. And I'm honored to be a part of it and help in any way that I can. I know, Gene, your heart's in the right place. Joe Murray, your heart is always in the right place. If anybody wants to, please consider at the end in the description, there is links for Gene's SAR Search and Rescue Drones. His organization is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and Equisearch Midwest. I please beg of you guys to consider, even if it's $1, every bit counts, and it goes towards searching for the missing. All of the live stream chat that came in here will be split between Dave and Gene, and I thank everybody for doing that. Dave, you have any parting words for the troops here? Everybody's been here in the chat for over 2 hours. Oh gosh, yeah, it's almost 2 hours. Anything from you and Twila? Twila, do you want to take it first, Twila, or do you want Dave to go?
Well, we'll let her close it out.
I just want to say, like what I always say, just remember, lost is not alone, and treat others the way you want to be treated. and smile. It just might make somebody's day, because you never know what somebody else is going through. And something as simple as a small smile can change somebody's whole mood and whole day.
Agreed. Dave, anything for the troops?
Again, I want to thank Joe for being a supporter of this whole it's not for us, it's for the missing. That's who he's representing, really. It's not Equisearch, it's not Gene. He's fighting for every single person that's missing. It's not about Dave Rader, it's not about Gene Robinson, it's not about Tim Miller. It's about the families that we're going out and we're trying to find. That's what Joe is fighting for. So I applaud him. I applaud everybody that has donated, and all of your followers for giving us the platform. And again, it's all because of a 5-year-old girl that's missing in Tennessee that our paths have crossed.
Yes.
And I've said that before. How it's just powerful.
It is. And that's what makes this amazing, is that this all happens just naturally. There was nothing that was produced here. We ran across our paths just because of a situation that happened down in Hawkins County in Tennessee. I want to say, Grace Green, thank you for your $200 super chat. Much appreciated. Very, very generous. Thank you for that, Grace Green. Much appreciated. It'll go between these two gentlemen and going to a good place. I wish that more content creators that are on here would do the same thing with the fundage that they get, or donate just a little bit of it to these great organizations, because we cover these cases and we talk about it, but these are the guys and girls that are out there doing the God's work. And I keep saying it, I'll say it up and down until I'm blue in the face. These are people that are doing it. They're out there searching. And Dave, you told me about one of your searches that had hundreds of ticks all over them and all kinds of things. And this is some of the the ugly parts of this that we don't get to talk about, because you guys don't talk about it. You're sending some of your search members to the hospital to have ticks taken off of them. And
that guy had 500 ticks on him. I mean, it was insane. I mean, it was in Tennessee. It was on Joe Clyde Daniels.
Yeah.
I got with ticks bad there. I didn't have to go to the hospital, but I got in a nest or something. I don't know what it was.
Poison ivy.
But it was absolutely horrible.
It's just
terrible.
We don't bitch because we're this is what we do. This if you think that we're just going to walk along the road and find whatever the hell we're looking for, that ain't going to happen.
No.
You have to get into the thick of this, and that's what people don't understand.
It's certainly not the yellow brick road, that's for sure.
No.
Faith, I did get your email. I just read it yesterday. So give me time. I'll definitely answer you. She says, DutyRon, I hope you got my email about the SOS hand signals. I definitely did. And thank you for that. And for those of you who are sending in emails to DutyRon.com, just be patient with me, because I'm a one-man band. I do it all on my own. So give me a chance to respond back to you. I do respond back to everybody. Be patient, and please, like Twila said, be kind, be patient. This is not a business for me. I do this part-time. I have a full-time gig that I do during the week, Monday through Friday. I'm a 9 to 5-er, and then I come on here and I flip on YouTube and we start doing this. So this is not a full-time business for me, and I'm in no way, shape, or form in this to make money. I pass my money forward to good causes like this. So again, just be patient with me. And if you're not yet subscribed to this community, subscribe to DutyRon. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all one word, DutyRon. And go over to DutyRon.com, where you can get all of the links to all of these great people that are in this live stream. I'll put it up on the board. Check out DutyRon.com. All you got to do is put that in the search bar. It brings you. I have Dave's place, his Equisearch link there. I have his Facebook link. I'll link Gene's once he gives me permission through his attorney, Joe Murray. Can I link Gene's stuff on my website? Counsel?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, great. We got permission. Gene, any final words before we go, and then we'll leave it up to Joe at the end. We always got to have the attorney get the last word.
Yeah, I would like to say, and I'm sure that Dave Twila would corroborate this for me, but I've traveled a lot of miles, and I've done a lot of searching, and I've brought technology to bear, and there's a lot of negative junk going on out there right now in the country. But I've got to tell you, by and large, many of the searches that I've gone to, I have met doctors and lawyers and Texas rednecks and roughnecks and people of all walks of life, nurses and cops and firemen and people who will give their time to look for, Tiki Bugs, a 9-year-old little African-American girl. And it was just, I got to see the good side of the American people, and they're out there, and they really, really want to do good. So I've got to tell you that has really been very gratifying for me to go out and see all you guys out there, and to meet you guys, and to see what good people you are. It gives me much faith in humanity to see that. Sure, there's the knotheads out there and the ne'er-do-wells, but by and large, you guys are great. And keep up with the volunteerism. Don't let it die. Keep doing more for your community. It's a great thing, and we love you. Okay, appreciate you.
Thank you. That was definitely heartfelt. Thank you, Gene. Joe Murray, attorney at law. What do you got?
Listen, I think they said it all. And just to follow off of what Gene was saying, I want to thank you for introducing me. I haven't been on YouTube and doing any of this stuff. And think about what I do all day, dealing with criminals and all kinds of victims and fighting and arguing all day. I love what you do here and your community and the wonderful people like Twila, Dave, and Gene that I'm now introduced to, and I see the amazing work they do. And in the comments, hundreds and hundreds of people commenting, having such wonderful things to say and do, and their care and concern that they demonstrate for this young girl that they've never met. And, they're just so heartfelt invested in this. And I love to see that. Just like Gene said, there's so much hate and anger going on in the world and strife. And I love seeing the good side here. It's really restored my faith in humanity, people doing for others without expecting anything in return. So I love it. Continue doing it. And Ron, I really support everything you do here. This is fantastic. And kudos to you. And God bless your wife for putting up with this.
My wife has got a one-way ticket straight to heaven. That's for sure.
Amen.
Let me go solo for a second here. Guys, I want to just say thank you. I really am so impressed. I tip my cap to all of the guests here with me tonight. They are now lifelong friends of mine, and I'm honored to call them friends. But I want to say, I want to appeal to the folks that are here in the chat. You guys are an intricate part of this community, and I could not do this without you. So my subscribers, my Patreon supporters, the channel members, the regular channel subscribers, the people who leave comments and engage down in the chat, the people in the live chat, you folks are tremendous. You guys are great, great human beings, and I love each and every one of you. Even the people who don't agree with me, if you respectfully come at me and tell me that you don't agree with me, I give you the voice. I don't limit the comments. I let everybody make their comments as long as they're respectful. I always like to listen to other sides of the story. And that's why my comment section is wide open. I keep my comments here open to anybody. You just, on this one, you just have to be a subscriber, and that costs nothing to subscribe to this channel. So please consider subscribing. Let this community build. We have great folks here who are doing great stuff. When you make your donations on chats like this and live streams like this, I pay it forward to the folks who need it the most. I don't put it in my pocket because it's not about me. It's about Summer Wells. It's about Orrin and Orson West. It's about their families. It's about bringing closure. And it's about supporting these great people who are out there doing God's work. And I say it over and over again. So thank you to everyone here in the chat. All of you guys, I appreciate you. And if I didn't name you by name, please excuse me. I'm just trying to keep the continuity of this informative live stream going. Again, as I like to end all of these, God bless the world, God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, and all victims of crime and their families across the globe. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Twila, I love you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Joe. I'll see you guys on the next one. And Gene, will you promise to come back for another live stream?
Anytime. You just give me a call. I'll be there.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, Joe, Dave, Twila. Good night from New York City. Thank you, guys.
Be safe.